Welcome to the Positively No Gambling Podcast, a pro football show that is definitely not about betting. My name is Glenn Fraser. It is Sunday, August 10th, and this is the 2025 team preview for the Denver Broncos. All right, relook at the format. Two big questions from the start of the offseason, recap 2024, overview 2025, look at some stats, trends, early against the spread leans, conclude on whether we think they've answered those two big questions, and give out a prelim over-under pick for the season total. The final over-unders will be part of the conference previews posted right before the season starts. So the Broncos, super fun team to talk about. And I will say this, at the beginning of the offseason, right after the Super Bowl, as you sort of recapped just what the heck happened with 2025 and some of the with 2024 and some of the opportunities for 25. The I was all in on the Broncos. I thought that they would win the division. I thought that they were a good bet to make or even win the Super Bowl. And it's because of some of the things we'll talk about. Now, what happened since then is this became a very trendy pick. Maybe not on the Super Bowl, but this is definitely a team that a lot of folks think will continue to make improvements and really are a threat to the Chiefs in the division. Now, since all of that has happened, coupled with some of the decisions that they've made, I've definitely tampered my expectations down, but I still like this team a lot. Um, so, in terms of the questions, did they improve their offense enough? And how good is Bo Nix going to be? How can you project him? Do you need to ensure that you always have a tremendous defense around him and plenty of offensive weapons, or is he going to be considered a great quarterback? To recap 24, they were 10 and 7, which was good for third in the AFC West, but it's a playoff berth. They lost pretty bad in Buffalo in the wild card round. They were in over their heads. Started off pretty rough, losses in Seattle and in Pittsburgh, and then they rattled off a bunch of good wins to go 5-1. And even though they had enough wins to make the playoffs, their finish was not the best. They were 4-4 to finish. They were technically 2-6 against playoff teams, but really 1-6 because this final game against Kansas City really did not matter. The only other team that they beat that ended up going to the playoffs was Tampa Bay. They underachieved when it comes to how many games they won versus what they could have won when you look at their point differential. And the one game that jumps out is the first Kansas City game, right? That fiasco with the kick at the end, and another game that Kansas City stole. And so this technically could have been an 11-win team. They were 1-6 in one score games. We all know what that means when it comes to efficiency, and it's something to look at to reverse. Promising offense, dominant defense. This was one of the best defenses in football, and they just, ran out of gas in the playoff game. Now the offense. This is where they had to improve. They had to add the type of weapons that Sean Payton loves to have in his offenses, and there was all sorts of speculation of who they'll sign, who they'll target in the draft. Are there running backs that they can get? Are there pass catchers that they can get? And in terms of who they lost, they really didn't lose anybody. They lost Javonte Williams to Dallas, who's I don't think highly of in terms of his ability to be a dynamic running back, and they lost Zach Wilson. Major loss there. In terms of what they added, this is where things get interesting. They added Evan Ingram, who shown flashes in the past in Jacksonville. That's a real interesting one. They probably reached, but they got somebody who a lot of people like in RJ Harvey in the draft. They recently added J.K. Dobbins, who that's an interesting one. Pat Bryant was another draft pick. Uh, but what really stands out is what they didn't go after. Like we said, they did get it was so obvious that this running back group was mediocre at best last year and really caused them, it didn't cause them games necessarily, but it caused them to not be as dynamic on offense as they could have been, because this is a tremendous offensive line. I'm being conservative with the rankings here. There's a real argument that they have top top talent at every single position on the line. Their running stats, their run blocking stats were tremendous, and the running backs just could not take advantage of it. So a lot of people thought that they would target a running back in the first round, and they didn't. They went defense in the first round, which we'll get to in a page here, but they ignored the offense totally. Others thought they might go after a wide receiver, maybe Ibuka from Ohio State. They didn't. They're leaving their receiving room kind of the same. Cortland Sutton is a good, not great wide receiver one. Marvin Mims is an okay wide receiver too. So back when the offseason started, I really thought that this could turn into a dynamic offense, and maybe it will be, but I wasn't in love with all of these moves, but they were moves, and it'll be interesting to see how they play out. Blue chips, again, I'm conservative here. I think Quinn Meinerz is without a doubt a top guard, but also both of their tackles are incredible as well. You could make the argument that they're a blue chip as well. The X factor is going to be Evan Ingram. If he can be a threat on third down, a threat up the middle, a sort of best friend to Bo Nix, and he knows he can rely on him. If he could play anywhere near he did, like he did, what, 2, 3 seasons ago in Jacksonville, this could be a difference maker. And there's no make or breaks here. This was a pleasant surprise last year how well their offense played. And now you're just looking to level up. You're looking for Knicks to avoid any sophomore slumps and move into that next rung of quarterbacks. Now the defense. This defense is incredible. I love this defense. They didn't really lose anybody. They lost a linebacker, Cody Barton, to Tennessee. What they added is so remarkable. They added Dre Greenlaw and Hofanga from San Francisco. Some injury question marks with these guys, some inconsistency, but God, are they talented. If they play anywhere close to their best, these are two huge signings. We talked about the draft. A lot of people thought that they would go offense, they go defense and take what could be the best or one of the best cornerback prospects in Jahdae Barron. Probably plug him in at nickel. Riley Moss was a big question mark, probably the only question mark in their secondary last year. If Barron's good enough, maybe they slide him in. If Moss continues to play a little bit below expectations, but if Riley Moss can step up and play a little bit better, all of a sudden this is looking like a deadly secondary. They also took some swings with some edges. Good pass rush with Nick Benito, Zach Allen. They added a couple more edge in a deep edge draft, so those are probably smart picks to increase their depth and just make this an even more dynamic defense. Blue chippers, again, a little bit conservative here with the grading, but definitely Pat Surtain, one of the best corners in football, and high potential Benito, Greenlaw, Hofanga, Brandon Jones, safety, Jahdae Barron, typo, but Jahdae Barron and Zach Allen. This is like real playmakers here. Talked about him. X factor is Riley Moss. If he can play, doesn't need to be top third, just needs to be average. And this is a ridiculous secondary. And there's no make or breaks. This is one of the league's best defenses. A lot of people have them ranked one. I wouldn't disagree with that. Tremendous defense. Let's look at their schedule. So not too bad. I mean, these AFC West teams obviously have to play each other, so that's tough, but not a brutal schedule, especially at home. Top 10, either way, it's a top 10-ish schedule in terms of how difficult it is, and they're it's mile high. They have an advantage. I don't care what stats say, they have an advantage at home. And when you're playing Tennessee to kick off the season, the Giants, the Jaguars, they should be able to win a bunch of these games. Something to look out for. Some bad luck. They finished in third, which sometimes gets you some easy matchups. This year, it gets you the privilege of playing the Packers and the Bengals. Now, these are at home, better than going into Lambeau, better than going into Cincinnati, but those are going to be tricky. And the key stretch is around the bye. Going into the bye, they've got Kansas City. Coming out of the bye, they have Washington in Washington. That's brutal. Before, couple weeks before, they're in Houston. Tough game. Couple weeks after, they're playing Green Bay. This is the stretch, and to end with Green Bay at Kansas City and the Chargers makes a easy schedule get really tough really quick. This game, week 18, this might be for a playoff berth. It could be for your over-under bets. That's a big game against the Chargers. All right, here's what got me so excited at the beginning of the offseason. They underachieved. They probably could have won 11 games, maybe even 12. They only won 10. Close games, 1-6. If we think that that reverts, that's another couple wins that they gave away last year. Turnover differential, nothing crazy. Even if that reverts, I don't think it'll be a big deal. The O line and the D line stats are just off the charts. There's signs of positive regression. They have elite lines. They need to improve the run game. In terms of leans that I like from an against the spread perspective, we'll get to the Titans when we get to them. I do like them this year, but that's tough luck for game one of Cam Ward to be in Denver. So week one, I like them a lot. It's a big line, 7.5, but the early season Titans might be really ugly. So that's a game that they should be able to win. Week four, I know the Bengals are a tough team, but I like the matchup, and they're only a 1.5 favorite against the Bengals. And then week 16, the Jaguars do not travel well. You're talking late season in Denver. That's a tough, tough place to play. Right now, you could get them for under a touchdown. So I like that. I'd say to stay away from these road games because it's a tough schedule. Bo Nix is a rookie, is a sophomore, but those are just stay away games. So do I think they've done enough in the run in on the offense? I actually do. It might not be to my initial standards, but I think that they've definitely added enough weapons to sustain what was a pretty good offense on paper and maybe make them even better last year. And then is Bo Nix leveled up? Is he a true blue starter in the league? I'm not sold on that, but I don't know if it's going to matter. Their over under is 9.5. I like them to go over. I think that they win 10 games at minimum. They're in that 10 to 12 range. Should compete for the playoffs. That schedule down the stretch makes me very nervous. They really need to rack up wins leading into that. And the question that if you believe in Denver, you do believe that Peyton has found his guys, and this is a Super Bowl threat, to be honest with you, and could compete for the division, could end up with, hosting some playoff games in Denver, which is always, always, always an advantage in January. And yes, this defense is for real. Should keep them in every game. They're good at every level and deep. So even with injuries that we know will happen, I still think that Denver is a top defense. And that's why I'm going over. I love this team. Not as high as I might have been, given some of the realities of what they did in the draft and things like that. But bottom line, I love Denver. So that concludes today's. Tomorrow's show, we will preview another really fun team to talk about, which is the Detroit Lions. Take care.